Ladies and gentlemen, it's been a long time since I made an AFL video, but finally with the AFL's return I can make the videos that I've wanted to make for a while. A lot of content that I've been wanting to make has been cancelled or delayed because of this whole pandemic, but now we can finally get into it. This is going to be round 2 of the AFL predictions video. Who will win? Who do I think will win? Let's go. Now, before we get into the main topic of this video, there is something that has just been announced and it's very positive news, and I didn't want to make a separate video, so I'm going to add it into this video at the very beginning, so hopefully you guys can understand. It looks like the Port Adelaide and Adelaide game is going to have a 2,000 seat crowd that will be able to watch the game, and that's very big news for the future of the AFL. Now, we know that Adelaide doesn't have many cases, if any cases, of COVID-19, so that's probably why that they're probably the only area that can have a crowd. But this could potentially mean big things for the future of the AFL and crowds returning sooner than we expected. I know they think they're going to have a very big AFL Grand Final that's going to be back to normal the way that it is, and I hope that's the case. And yeah, I just wanted to add this in at the very start so you guys can hear this first if you haven't heard it already. Before we get to the main topic of this video, I'll get back to the earlier me. This was recorded later, and yeah, hope you enjoy the video. What's up everybody, it's the Sports Code aka Aiden, and welcome back to another video. This is going to be an AFL predictions video for round 2. Now this is a restart of the start of the season. Basically, we've all seen round 1. It's been what, 3 months or more that we haven't seen any AFL football. I think we all miss it, and we're excited to get the season started. So before we get started, please like and subscribe to the Sports Code YouTube channel, turn notifications on, and let me know in the comments who do you think will win with all these games coming up. And we're going to start off with a big game, man, and this one is going to be tough to decipher, honestly. Collingwood versus Richmond. These two have been very big teams for a very long time now, and I think they're probably the two best teams that we've seen so far from round 1 till now. They both had very good wins against their opponents. Obviously, Collingwood had probably a little bit of a better opponent, and they completely destroyed them. And Richmond and Carlton are always a good game. No matter what the score is, they always a good game. So I don't really know. I can't decipher this because in my brain, I predict Collingwood because Collingwood was so impressive, but you have to think this is a 3-month period where we haven't seen football, so we don't know if they can keep that going or not. We've only seen one game, but I have to put my predicament, I have to put my judgment into that one game because there's no other real history or proof or backup research besides last year, and I don't think we can use last year anymore. It's been way too long. So I'm going to go for Collingwood against Richmond, and I think it's going to be very close. I think this is probably going to be the best game of the round. They're amazing teams here. Collingwood are very good at keeping the ball, and they have one of the best forward lines. I think Richmond has a great midfield and a very decent forward line as well, and their back line's decent as well. These are two of probably the best teams in the AFL so far. So, of course, the AFL's done a great job putting that matchup together. And I feel like there's going to be a lot of fans at home watching this one that are not even fans of those two teams because it's the very first one and we're going to miss it. So Collingwood is my predicted winner. Moving on to the next one, a rivalry renewed as well. Hawthorn versus Geelong. These two teams, my goodness, the amount of times that people watch these two teams play. It's a rivalry, man. This is a rivalry, and again, the AFL did a really good job putting these matchups together. Honestly, they have, and it's a good job that they did because this is another game where it's going to be hard to decipher, isn't it? Usually, I would never bet against Hawthorn, and the reason why it's because Hawthorn has been consistently good for a long period of time. But I feel like this is going to be a down year for Hawthorn. Yes, they did pick up a win against Brisbane, but we still don't know what Brisbane's all about. We don't know if they're a one-hit wonder or not. So we're going to see what Brisbane's all about later on. For Hawthorn against Geelong, I'm going to go with Geelong here. And the reason why I go with Geelong is because I feel like Geelong is probably the most consistent team when it comes to the AFL. They're consistently good. And whether they're not the best, they haven't been the best for a while now. Neither is Hawthorn. But they're consistently good, and I think that's the key here. I think Hawthorn's on a little bit of a down period. They're trying to develop a lot of their players. One thing we know about Hawthorn, they're very quick rebuilders. They can rebuild a team within 2 years or a year, and they could be back at the top. But this is going to be one of those periods where you have to wait and see what to expect from Hawthorn. And I feel like with Geelong, you already know what to expect. They're going to be a little bit better than last year. That's what I predict for Geelong. So I'm going for them to win this game. But again, another close game. I would say a rivalry game. Now, I feel like Geelong are going to be a little bit too much to handle, and they're usually one of the most annoying teams to verse Geelong, always, at least for a Melbourne fan at least. Next up, we've got Brisbane versus Fremantle Dockers. The Brisbane Lions versus the Fremantle Dockers. Two teams we do not know much about what's going to happen with them. We can't predict it because they're too unpredictable. Most of these teams are too unpredictable. So, there's been a lot of rumours that Jesse Hogan could be playing again in this AFL season. I don't think he's going to play against Brisbane. I think that's a little bit too soon. So for that reason and that reason alone, and it's at the Gabba, I'm going for Brisbane to win this game. Again, Fremantle have had a lot of injuries, but a lot of those injuries have been rectified within these 3 months. A lot of players, I would say, are back. But again, I just don't know. I don't know what I can see from Fremantle that makes me believe they're going to be a good team this year. Jesse Hogan is a clear, obvious miss, and I feel like their forward line will be damaged because of that. But Jesse Hogan hasn't done much in a Fremantle jersey whatsoever since he's come. And that might not necessarily be his fault, and I don't think he'll be playing this game. But if he does, I think that's a big advantage for Fremantle. But I'm still going for Brisbane. At the end of the day, Brisbane were a better team than Fremantle last year. And I think in round 1, they were a better team than Fremantle as well. And I hope that Fremantle can make this a close game, but I see Brisbane taking this comfortably, to be honest. I don't see Fremantle being too much of a threat. The way that they play Fremantle is very fast. They're a very fast team, and maybe with a little bit of experienced Brisbane side, they can get at them in that way. But I really think Brisbane will not struggle against the Fremantle Dockers. That's my personal opinion. I'm not sure. Again, these two teams are very unpredictable. Could Brisbane be a one-hit wonder, or maybe Fremantle could be one of those teams that rises up and defy all the odds? We don't know, but I feel like Brisbane will comfortably beat Fremantle. Next up, my favourite game of the round, because obviously a Melbourne fan here, Carlton versus Melbourne at Marvel Stadium. Again, not an MCG game. This game is... I don't know what to say about this game. I mean, I'm very excited for this. Obviously, when you have friends that are Carlton fans around you, it's one of those games where, like, it's exciting to watch. Win or lose, like, it's going to be a blast. And I really think this game is going to be very entertaining. These two clubs know how to put on a show. Even in a losing effort or a winning effort, they put on a show. And I think last year, Melbourne won the game very narrowly. But the big difference is they're going to have Cripps this year, Carlton. But it's like a strength and weaknesses game. Carlton have injuries in their forward line still, so that's going to be a big decision factor on whether they can win this game or not. How many goal scoring opportunities can they create? We saw against Richmond, they're pretty good at goal scoring even with an injured forward line. But our biggest strength is the midfield. And I know Cripps is probably the better midfielder than anybody that we have, but we have a ruckman, and currently Carlton don't. And I think our midfield altogether is better than Carlton's, besides obviously Cripps. That's their main, isn't it? So who do I think is going to win? I think this is going to be a rather low-scoring game, to be honest. I said this a couple of weeks ago, and I'm going to say it now. I don't think this game is going to be too high-scoring, but I do think it's going to be a very end-to-end battle. I feel like our defense is good enough to hold off a lot of Carlton's players, but I also feel like our forward line can't kick anything. So that's the way that I feel. So I don't think this is going to be a very high-scoring game at all. I think Carlton are going to come fired up because they want to get their first win. And I feel like last year they were so close to beating us that they have the motivation to go and do it. But I'm going to back my team here. I'm going to back Melbourne. And I just think it's too unpredictable, Melbourne. And I think that's why I'm going to back them, because we had a very bad start to round 1. Hopefully we can start the restart of the AFL better than we did against West Coast. I'm going to back Melbourne. I don't think they were too bad against West Coast, but I feel like just being the rush of the fans, I take everything to heart, really. So I'm just going to say they suck for no reason. But yeah, I'm going to back my team here. I think it's going to be very low scoring, and I know Carlton fans are backing their team as well. So it's just one of those things. Carlton finished above us on the ladder last year, so they have the advantage in that retrospect. It's just who you prefer. I prefer Melbourne in this game, and we'll see what happens. I hope that they can deliver and get the first win of the season. A little bit of a biased opinion, I know, and I try my hardest not to be biased, but I can't not back my own team, and I feel like Carlton fans will do the same if they were in my situation. So let me know what you guys think about that one. I spoke too much about that one as well. The Gold Coast Suns versus the West Coast Eagles. I don't think I need to say much about this. Now, Gold Coast are going to be due to win a game sometime. So I'm not going to say Gold Coast is going to lose convincingly every single time. But I do strongly think they will lose to West Coast. I know it's at their home, Gold Coast. But I think West Coast will run through them, to be honest. I feel like this is going to be the biggest lead, biggest game where there's goals scored. I just think there is. I think West Coast are just too overpowered in every single area, and Gold Coast will just not be able to match up. I hope this is a close game. I want Gold Coast to win a game early, because if they can win a game early, then I think they can get the momentum to beat some of the smaller teams that are matching up with them. But they just need that one win, and if they can get that win early, then I really can see them going and beating other teams. But it just all depends, man. If they can't get that first win early, all motivation is going to be lost, and then they could end up being at the bottom of the pack like they do every year. So I'm hoping for a change, to be honest. But I just, how could you go against West Coast against Gold Coast, man? It's just the way it is. I'm sorry if you guys feel differently, but that's just the way that I see it. And hopefully you guys can understand that. Next up, a big game. A rivalry, another rivalry game between Adelaide and Port Adelaide. Wow. Now, if you think about it with your head, you have to go Port Adelaide. But this is a rivalry game. I feel like this is going to be a lot closer than people expect. I think Adelaide, they performed relatively poor again in their last game against Sydney, and I think they're going to have to come back from that, and I feel like they will. But in my mind, you can't go against Port Adelaide. I feel like this is going to be a relatively close game. Again, these are two rival games. Every time Port Adelaide and Adelaide verse, it has to be a good game. That's the expectation of that rivalry. So I hope to see a very good game here, and I'm going to be watching this one. I'm going to keep my eyes on this one, because I said at the beginning that Port Adelaide is going to have a very, very good year, and I think they're the underdogs to get into that top four, besides Western Bulldogs, of course. So in my mind, Port Adelaide needs to put on a show, and Port Adelaide needs to win here. And I'm going to back Port Adelaide because I back my own statement, and hopefully they can prove me right. They're first at the moment, but one game doesn't mean anything, does it? They're versus Gold Coast. So, yeah, we'll see about that. I back Port Adelaide. Next up, the Giants versus North. Now, I believe North beat St Kilda in the last game, and St Kilda is a team that we don't know what to expect, but they've been hyped up a lot. So I don't know what to expect from North Melbourne in this game, but I'm going with the Giants. Again, the Giants have something to prove, and as much as people hate the Giants in Victoria and elsewhere, people don't like the Giants, but they're a good team and they have something to prove. And I feel like they're going to be the team that finishes first because of that momentum of losing so badly last year to coming back stronger. I think that's going to be the story that's going to be told to the players, and the story is going to be told to the fans and to all of the AFL that they're going to come back stronger than ever. And I believe that they will. And I really think this is their year to win it. Otherwise, they're not going to win it. That's how I personally perceive things. And I hope, I don't hope actually, because I don't like GWS, just like most people. But yeah, they're probably going to end up doing very well this year. We'll see. And I back them to win this game. Anyway, last two, guys. Alrighty, Sydney versus Essendon. This is at the Sydney, the Sydney's home. And again, it's one of those things. Can Essendon travel to Sydney and beat Sydney in their home turf? Sydney's known to be a very hard place to go and to win games. But I truly believe that this Sydney team is poor, and I think this Sydney team is in a rebuilding stage, and Essendon is one of those teams you just don't know. They're an enigma. You don't know what to expect from Essendon. So who do I think will win? I'm backing Essendon. Away from home, I'm going to back Essendon, and I hope that they can prove me right here, because I expect Essendon to be relatively close to the 8. People say they should be in the 8, and most people say they should be nowhere near the 8. But I really think that Essendon will actually fight to try and put themselves in that position to get into the 8. Of course, that's what their goal is every year, most likely. So I'm going to back Essendon, and I think this is going to be closer than people expect. people say Essendon just because Sydney's in a rebuilding stage, but going to Sydney and trust me, Melbourne. I remember the time when Melbourne didn't win a game for what, nearly 7 years in Sydney. So I've seen my things with Sydney, man. So it's tough to go to Sydney and win games, but I feel like Essendon will do it, and I think most teams that go to Sydney these days will. But I'm expecting this to be a close game. And finally, and one of my favorite games, because these two teams I keep a very close eye on, St Kilda and the Western Bulldogs, to close off the round. These two exciting teams. So if St Kilda lost to North Melbourne, and North Melbourne again is one of those teams where they're not expected to do good, but you never know what to expect from North Melbourne. And St Kilda's been very, very, very well praised. They've been very hyped, and people expect a bunch of things from St Kilda. So it's hard to not go against them, but unfortunately for St Kilda fans, I'm going to go against them. I'm going to pick the Western Bulldogs. The Western Bulldogs have had 3 months to look back at that terrible game they played against Collingwood. They have 3 months to look at how badly they played, how they got out-possessioned, how they got out-marked, out-tackled, out-handballed, efficiency. Every single stat you can think of, Western Bulldogs lost, and probably for turnovers. That's about it, the only stat that they won. So it's unacceptable for a Bulldogs fan and Bulldogs players that can happen again. So I think they're going to come out and they're going to dominate. I think they're going to dominate the ball. I think they're going to be aggressive, and I think they're going to be the one that gets the majority of the free kicks this game. I think St Kilda will probably go 0-2, and I think that's a terrible start for them. But I cannot see Western Bulldogs losing this game. If they lose this game, then I truly think that they're not as good as a team as people think they are. And maybe St Kilda is well hyped. So it just depends on which side of the coin you want to choose. But I'm going to choose Western Bulldogs. I'm going to back that they're a decent team and they just had a bad game. I'm going to back that they're going to have something to prove. And I'm going to back that they're going to win this game and win it fairly well as well. I don't see this being too close of a game, to be honest. But it's going to be exciting. These two teams are exciting teams. They're upcoming teams. They're ready to play. So we'll see. Again, we don't know much, do we? We don't know much. We don't have enough to go on. I think a lot of people that predict AFL Round 2 or any AFL round, it's all based on your prediction and your experience with a team. And I've had a lot of experience with these two teams. That's why I'm able to give more information on it. But there are a lot of teams out there that I don't know much about. So I'm making a prediction. At the end of that, this is what it is. So that's going to be the end of this video, guys. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe. If you're new to the Sports Coach YouTube channel, give us a chance, man. Turn notifications on. Let me know in the comments if you disagree or agree with certain players, certain teams winning, and let me know, what game are you most excited for? Are you most excited for Richmond and Collingwood? Because that's the first game we're going to see. Are you more excited for the end for Bulldogs and St Kilda? Are you more excited for the Adelaide collision? Are you excited for Hawthorn and Geelong, a rivalry renewed? There's so many games, so many possibilities, so many rivalries coming together to kick off the AFL. And I think they've done a perfect job with the way that they've structured this round 2. It's basically round 1 all over again. It's going to possibly be more exciting because now that we've lost our football, we're going to appreciate it so much more when we get it back. And I'm going to be excited. I hope you guys are excited. Either way, to be honest, I couldn't care less if we win or lose. I couldn't care less about all the teams that win or lose, because at the end of the day, every single team is a winner in terms of this round, because we finally got the things that we want back. We got our football back. And yes, this round, I could end up making a video bashing Melbourne or bashing any team that I thought was terrible. But at the end of the day, we all got our football back and we're all winners, at least for this round. So, anyway, with that being said, have a wonderful and safe day. Take care and peace.